Hey ladies, today's video is all about navigating, talking about certain body parts that aren't a part of normal conversation. When it comes to talking about our private areas, there are a few rules that we live by in our home. First, I keep it brief and anatomically correct. I personally don't want my daughters to think of their body parts as dirty words or having dirty uses. They are beautiful and made on purpose with a purpose that is good, just like any other body part in the appropriate context and use. Which leads us to number 2 of my points, which is the age-appropriate explanation and use of that body part. I have one daughter in particular who is especially curious about everything and anything. I want to build trust with her, so I am always honest and upfront with her. I want her to know that she can come to me and I will tell her the truth, not avoid it or make her feel embarrassed for asking. Or just make it feel super, super awkward. It's gonna be awkward regardless, but really don't want her to feel super awkward so that she will look to learn from or ask her peers. Number 3 is I check the tone of my voice to the best of my ability. Sometimes their questions really catch you off guard, but I try to check the tone of my voice, and when my girls get curious about something, I try to get curious and I slow down. And when they ask a question, I don't act annoyed because sometimes their timing is not the best. And I don't try to rush to shut it down a conversation just because she or I may not be ready for the full answer, or it's bedtime and I'm trying to brush their teeth and get them in bed because it's been a long day and they just have these very big questions to ask. I also don't make it a big sit down conversation every time, keeping in mind my first rule about keeping it brief. They also tend to lose interest if you take it too long, but I ask questions just to see where her mind is, and I always answer to some level. If it is a question that may be too much too soon, too heavy of a question, I feel for her age, just I always want to keep it age appropriate. I have worked hard on building a trust with my girls so that 99% of the time they are totally comfortable with waiting for a more in-depth answer. There's been a few times where they have not been satisfied and we've had to have just extra conversations about it and kind of just encouraging like, hey, you trust me, and just like talking about that trust, like, hey, I know you're not ready for this. And also use an example that I've heard before, and you may have heard this too, that when subjects are too heavy, I remind them that some things are like a heavy suitcase. It'd be unfair for me to let them carry this until they're a little bigger and stronger. It's not that they can't lift it and they can't carry it for a minute. I try to validate that they are capable. I'm not trying to say you're too young or you're too little, you don't understand, but I am acknowledging that they have the capability of understanding. I am just in charge of their safety and making sure that they don't get hurt by doing something or learning something too soon that maybe their brains aren't ready for. There are times where I have to gently guide them in a different direction when they keep wanting to go one way. I guide them very slowly, carefully through the subject that they really want to explore more because of their growing curiosity. I definitely live and rely heavily on the drip drip method in our house as far as the information that I give, and I typically wait for conversations to come up first via curiosity or actions. An amazing source that inspires me and gives me ideas for navigating these conversations is Birds and Bees. I haven't used any of their courses or products. I don't know if they have products. I'm pretty sure they have some courses. I just haven't looked that far into it. I have just personally followed them on social media, and a lot of the example reels that they show really just show you how many little opportunities there are in a calendar year to have these conversations little by little, or as they say on their channel, drip by drip. And I love it so much. There's so many opportunities that come up to have conversations to really guide them and get them thinking in a mature way, to just cultivate their heart and their mind to think of their bodies well, think of their bodies as good and beautiful, and to understand boundaries that should not be crossed and their body's uses that they won't fall into false things, even little things like being embarrassed because you didn't know something, or being embarrassed because you thought just by your own being left to your own devices, maybe, that you thought of your body being used a certain way, like, oh, that just makes logical sense in their small little brains, and then never having a conversation about it until they're older with maybe a peer, and not fully understanding that, and maybe being embarrassed that they thought a certain thing. I definitely had that as a child. I don't even know how I drew some of my conclusions, but somehow, some way, I came to a couple conclusions that were kind of embarrassing when I realized that that was not true at probably too old of an age. But yeah, I want to really be a trusted source, and I want them to have such knowledge and information to either stand their ground and have boundaries, and to encourage and help other women be like, oh, hey, my mom talked about this. If you're going through this, like, I got you. It hasn't happened to me yet, as far as like a period or something. There's so many things that come up in life that you're not going to be there for. So thank you for watching. I would be so grateful if you could give me a follow and like this video. It would help me, and let me know that you love my content and would like to see more videos like this. Also, let me know in the comments below what was the most helpful thing that I touched on, and anything that you would like to add. I love to hear from other women that are also just navigating this same season of life. Until next time.